back at exactly the same time. Feeling like you never left.
Good morning, Patriots. How you doing today? This is Mike the Patriot coming to you live from the downtown metropolis of LaMonte, Missouri. And it is October 26th, 2023. Just like you never left. Doesn't it seem like maybe we're in a combination of Back to the Future and Groundhog Day? Just keeps happening over and over and over again. Yes, I got a cough drop in my mouth. Get over it. I'm getting over it, doing better. Just preventive maintenance. Hope you guys are all having a great day wherever you are at as you're logging in, saying hi, where you're watching from. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, hit the Rumble button, hit the reaction button, like, comment, share, and tag people. That's what wakes up the algorithm. That's what gets things going. That's what helps spread the word around as things are kicking off this morning all around the world. Lots of things to talk about, lots of things happening. Many of you probably already heard about. We have a new speaker. There was a shooting. Nuclear war, no, average, ordinary stuff, just mundane. Anyways, as you're logging on, do me a favor, make sure you go and check me out on the other socials. You can find me. Oops, that's the wrong button. That's my mother-in-law as she lost weight taking the Modere products that I represent. Here is, you can find me on TikTok at MikeCook82. You can find me on X or Twitter or Twex or whatever you want to call it at Patriot Mike Show. You can follow me on Truth at Patriot Mike Show. You can go to Facebook and go to Patriot Mike Show. Just type Patriot Mike Show on Facebook. Follow me there. And you can follow me on personal page, Mike Cook. On both those pages, you can send stars. They're a penny a piece. If you send 100 stars, you send $1. And it does help pay for the subscriptions and everything else that I have to pay for to make this work. So I appreciate it. You can also follow me on Telegram. Just go to the links provided in the description section wherever you're watching this. It'll take you straight there. Subscribe. On Telegram, if you haven't downloaded the app, go to telegram.org. Just type that in your web browser and download the app. Don't go to the web store. They'll censor it through the web store. But once you do that, you download the app and then you hit the link. It'll take you there. Down at the bottom, it says join. Then hit the mute button because it'll drive you crazy. But if you want to know where all my videos are at, you want to know where all of the memes are at, all the stories are at, all the links are at, that's where they're at. You can follow me on Rumble. All the chatty folk are over there on Rumble right now. By far, more people watch me on Rumble than anywhere else combined. That's just because there's less suppression. I can look at my numbers and tell I'm being suppressed. It's weird. Once in a while, they'll wake up the algorithm over on Facebook, and the Patriot Mike Show fan page will have double or triple what's on my personal page. That's when I know I'm not being suppressed. But right now, it's about half what's on my personal page. It's being suppressed. It's that simple. Just the way it is. So go over to Rumble. Go over to Rumble where it's not suppressed. Once you create an account, you can, if there's free, you can be in the chat room. And in the bottom of the chat room is a little tip jar. Feel so inclined. Some of you, put a little tip in there from now and then, and I really appreciate it. So those are the places where you can find me. You can also follow me. If you follow me, I'm live streaming now on the 2 Facebook channels. On my alternative Facebook channel, Patriot Mike, just when they take me down, maybe I'll still be there. I'm live streaming on Rumble. I'm live streaming on YouTube, but I'm not sharing the link because I don't really care because I expect to get kicked off sooner rather than later. But if you want to see that, you can go over and check it out. It's over there. You can find it. Maybe. I don't know. Doesn't matter. And I'm live streaming on X now that I can. So that's pretty cool. So anyways, what a time we are living in. Things are happening fast and furious all over the place. Somebody said to me, boy, you really put together a good show. I'm like, they make it easy with enough stuff to talk about. I'm telling you. Anyways, let's start out with Babylon B. Smoke rises over the Capitol, indicating Congress has resumed setting taxpayer money on fire. Washington, D.C. Smoke rose over the Capitol building early this afternoon, indicating that Congress has resumed shoveling taxpayer money, taxpayers' dollars into the giant bonfire. They're back at it, said a local resident, Milton Dennings. Watching the cloud of smoke rise, well, all the good things must come to an end. After 3 weeks of Congress being hamstringed by having no Speaker of the House, the glowing embers of the last $1 trillion set on fire had at last begun to fade. So, if we can light money on fire, if we can't light money on fire, what exactly are we doing here? Asked Representative Tom Emmer, twiddling his thumbs. Frankly, I'm to the point where I don't care anymore who's lighting the match, so as long as the cash is going up in flames. As smoke began billowing out of the Capitol, Americans learned that the brief respite from money scorching had come to a close. Oh man, they're really getting after it, said Frank Snow, watching on TV as smoke poured out. Making up for lost time, I suppose. I wonder if that will affect inflation. At publishing time, Congress had proposed a $50 billion study to determine the effect of lighting money on fire to combat inflation. Sadly, the proposal and the $50 billion were also set on fire. So there you have it. Congress is back at it. The money, start the presses. The money the money is being printed like there's no tomorrow. Everything is happening. Speaking of money being printed, speaking of money being printed like there's no tomorrow, breaking news this morning, and as I look at the Dow Jones, it says NASDAQ falls Thursday, slide deeper into correction territory. It's down 61 points as we speak. Dow Jones Industrial Average is at $4.09 down. S&P 500 is at 13.8, and gold is at 1987. Now, let me tell you something. As I was watching the futures this morning, NASDAQ was down almost 200 points. S&P was down about 100.5, and gold was flirting with 2,000. What happened? Well, breaking news, CNBC. That's right. That was a little Rush Limbaugh lingo there. If you don't recognize it, his breaking news stuff. Gotta pay tribute to the master whenever I can. U.S. GDP grew at 4.9% pace in the third quarter. Better than expected. Yay, the GDP grew. That means that they're going to probably, clamp down and raise interest rates again. But everything is awesome. Everything's great. Stock market went reversed. Everything went immediately. And I watched it happen as the news broke. Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, all that stuff went green from the red. Boom. I mean, like 200 points jump. Bam. And gold dropped $10. Boom. Just like that. Because everything is awesome. Well, let's get down here and read a little bit. It says the U.S. economy grew faster than expected in the third quarter, which they'll revise here in about 2 months, but they won't report. But anyways, I digress. Buoyed by a strong consumer in spite of higher interest rates, ongoing inflation pressure, and a variety of other domestic and global headwinds. This is the real problem right there. Inflation pressure. Gross domestic product, a measure of goods and services produced in the U.S., rose at an annual 4.9% annualized pace in July through September period, up from the unrevised 2.1 pace in the second quarter. What was the revised number? Well, the revised number was lower, but they're not telling you that. Thursday's Consumer Department reported Thursday's economist surveys by Dow Jones have been looking for a 4.7% increase. Now, what caused this to happen? Well, the price of every damn thing went up. Why do you think it happened? I was joking, standing in line, an old man behind me was joking at the grocery store yesterday, said I had to go out and get a second mortgage on the house in order to buy some groceries. And he just laughed and said everything's too expensive. And I looked at him and I said, you know who's making out like a bandit? He said, who's that? I said, the tax man. Because whatever the tax rate is, whatever percentage it is, it's more if the price is more. So the economy is now taking off and going through the roof, and everything is awesome, and we're great. And then the news story breaking: Nasdaq falls Thursday, slides deeper into correction territory. So they had it all straightened out, and then, well, it just imploded, and that was the end of that. The problem is that no matter how much they try to manipulate everything, someone once said to me, it is what it is. It makes no difference if the reality isn't any different. So yesterday, what happened? Yesterday, breaking news: the new House Speaker. Oh, wait a second. Maybe if I unmute things here, it would be, how shall we say, helpful.
Mr. Speaker Pro Temp, Madam Clerk, colleagues, on behalf of the House Republican Conference, I rise today to nominate the gentleman from Louisiana, Mike Johnson, as Speaker of the People's House.
Yay, yay, yay. So Mike Johnson's nominated as Speaker of the House, and there were some shenanigans going on. The deep staters tried to stop it, but it didn't happen. And the vote came, and this is how it turned out: 216 Johnson, 205 Jeffries, Hakeem Jeffries, 0 others, 0 voted present. Johnson is now the official Speaker of the House, so they can get on with the task of burning all our money up. But, there's some hope this morning as we watch, the Capitol burn. Mike Johnson is getting a standing ovation, and as he actually asked the people to gather around him here and pray. And of course, this guy's got his mask on, so we know he's good to go. Yay. Anyways, yes, these are our fearless leaders. Here is Mike Johnson giving his acceptance speech. We're going to go into a little bit about how this happened and who this guy is.
Extraordinary crisis right now, and the world needs us to be strong. They need us to remember our creed and our admonition. Turmoil and violence have rocked the Middle East and Eastern Europe. We all know it, and tensions continue to build in the Indo-Pacific. The country demands strong leadership of this body, and we must not waver. Our nation's greatest ally in the Middle East is under attack. The first bill that I'm going to bring to this floor in just a little while will be in support of our dear friend Israel, and we're overdue in getting that done. We're going to show not only Israel, but the entire world that the barbarism of Hamas that we have all seen play out on our television screens is wretched and wrong, and we're going to stand for the good in that conflict.
So there he is. Portion of his speech where they're going to spend money on Israel. Okay, that's okay. I mean, I support Israel. That's good. That's good. We want to support Israel, but yeah. So here he is getting a standing ovation. Yay! Because I'm trying to determine who is this cat? Who is this guy that gets elected? Who is he? And as I'm trying to figure out who he is, here is a statement from him. The Oversight Committee reposted it. It says, "It is an honor of a lifetime to have been elected as the 56th Speaker of the House. Thank you to my colleagues, staff, family, and for the unmatched support throughout the process. It has been an arduous few weeks and a reminder that the House is as complicated and diverse as the people we represent. The urgency of the moment demands bold, decisive action to restore trust, advance our legislative priorities, and demonstrate good governance. Our House Republican Conference is united and eager to work. As Speaker, I will ensure the House delivers results and inspires change for the American people. We will restore trust in this body." That's all. You got a long way to go there, buddy. "We will advance a comprehensive conservative policy agenda, combat harmful policies of the Biden administration, and support our allies abroad. We will restore sanity to the government desperately in need of it. Let's get back to work." Yay, let's get to work for the workers, for the people, for the small people, for the little guy. Yay. Yay. And all that. Here is Donald Trump as he comes out of the courtroom in New York, and he has words to say about Mike Johnson.
Thank you very much. I just want to congratulate Mike Johnson. He will be a great Speaker of the House, and we were very happy to help. I've known him for a long time. He's a tremendous leader, a tremendous man, comes from a wonderful place, Louisiana. He's going to make us all proud. So at this time yesterday, nobody was thinking of Mike. And then we put out the word, and now he's the Speaker of the House. So I want to just thank all of the supporters that I have, and I want to thank all of the supporters that Mike has. And again, he'll be a great speaker. I think you're going to be very proud of him. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
So he just stepped out for a minute to talk to the press. And yes, Donald Trump also truthed this out. "Congratulations to Representative Mike Johnson. He will be a great speaker. Make America great again." So Donald Trump's in behind him, but Donald Trump's, he plays the game. So I'm trying to figure out who this guy is, and little things started popping up. For example, on the report card of those that support Ukraine, well, they've endorsed Mike Johnson for speaker, and here's how they endorsed him. Ukraine support card, very poor, F. Voted in favor of Ukraine Democracy Defense Lend-Lease Act of 2022, which allowed the lend-lease of American defense material to Ukraine, which translates to give. Voted against the 2022 Ukraine supplement appropriation. Voted in favor of Amendment 21 H.R. 2670, the National Defense Authorization Act, which would have stricken $300 million of assistance from Ukraine. Voted in favor of Amendments 22 H.R. 2670, the National Defense Authorization Act, which would have prohibited security assistance to Ukraine. Voted in favor of Amendment 25 H.R. 2670, the National Defense Authorization Act, which would have removed extension of lend-lease authority to Ukraine. Voted against H.R. 5629, Ukraine Security Assistance and Oversight Supplemental Appropriation Act of 2023. Made an anti-Ukraine statement. Oh, he made an anti-Ukraine statement. Can't do that. I mean, lock him up forever. Elizabeth says she wants an Aaron Cates t-shirt from the snack bar. Now that's my phrase. Aaron's stealing my phrase, now selling t-shirts off of it. I want one too. Maybe I'll make one. Maybe I'll make one and put it over there on my page. The link's in there. The Aaron Cates Ogbu snack bar. Well, you get your BLTG sandwiches. Yeah, well, anyways, well, we'll see about that. We'll see what we can put together. Let's see what we can do about it. Maybe I can poach some pictures of Aaron Cates off of his show last night or something. Oh, you just got to explain the joke to your Jewish friends, and then they'll laugh about it. That's what you got to do, Aaron. You got to explain the joke to them. They'll get it. You know, Ogbu Snack Bar. You know, it's all good. It's all good. So, Mike Johnson has got, actually, I stole the Ogbu snack bar from somebody else. I think it was one of my buddies who served in the military. But, yes. So Mike Johnson got an F on his support or lack thereof for Ukraine. That's good. That's a positive. And of course, the mainstream media went nuts. And here's what they had to say. You know, New York Times, Johnson played a leading role in effort to overturn 2020 election. New Speaker of the House Mike Johnson once wrote in support of criminalizing gay sex. Rolling Stone says the new House Speaker is a far-right extremist who helped plot the 2020 coup. Vanity Fair, Mike Johnson tried to help Donald Trump steal the election. He's now Speaker of the House. Mother Jones, Mike Johnson helped engineer Trump's coup. Then Democrats helped make him Speaker. Democrats didn't vote for him at all. What are you talking about? Well, we have a Speaker. He's an election denier, an extreme Christian fundamentalist. Get a rope or maybe a guillotine. Which would be worse? Mike Johnson may be Speaker through exhaustion and delusion. Despite desperate GOP turns to election denier in race for House Speaker. New Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson was the mastermind of the January 6th plot. Dum. No, he wasn't. The former Speaker of the House was the mastermind of it. Nancy Pelosi. That's why I had the film crew. I had to flee the Capitol. If we didn't plant the pipe bombs, then we would have had to send the vote back to states, and we couldn't have that. We have plans. Agenda 2030. Anyways, moving on. Nancy Pelosi was the problem and the instigator, not Mike Johnson. And then another shining endorsement of Mike Johnson came in that I just could not. I mean, this settled it for me. There was others, but this one right here, this endorsement of Mike Johnson, an endorsement of Mike Johnson from Adam Shifty Shift. This shining example of endorsement couldn't get any better. This is the greatest endorsement that he could receive. You might be Googling who Mike Johnson is this morning. Let me make it simple. Johnson is a hard-right, pro-Trump, leading election denier in the House. Sadly, this is what passes for speaker material in the Republican conference. Well, by golly, if Adam Schiff hates him, then he's the man for me. Not to be outdone, but there's been some others, and I'm sure there's more than I have here. I just haven't found them yet, and it's a lot of going through. But just because, I mean, some of these endorsements you just can't pass up. Some of these endorsements, for example, this one, another person who absolutely endorses Mike Johnson is Bill Kristol. This is the best endorsement I've ever seen. For your information, Mike Johnson's Ukraine report card is an F, very poor. Bum, bum, bum. He's not supporting the Nazis in Ukraine hard enough for Bill Kristol, the warmonger. So, look, if those folks don't like Mike Johnson, then I'm liking Mike Johnson. But now, of course, he's still got to do the do. You know what I mean? He's still got to do the do. And I'm still I'll throw a temper fit about how much I hate Republicans when he's kowtowing, bowing down to whoever, you know. But at this point, the people that are in opposition against him make me feel a little better. Kash Patel said this. Ooh, maybe not. Computer went nuts. There you go. Time for the reign of the defense industrial complex, special interest, and lobbyist groups to end. Let's go, Speaker Mike Johnson. Step 1. Ignite stalled oversight investigations and haul those violating your subpoenas and no more haul in those violating your subpoenas and no more extended CRs. No more extended. Yeah, let's do a real budget. How about that? I mean, it's only constitutionally mandated. Why would you want to do something like that? And then, of course, Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader, takes to the floor, actually takes to the stand to talk about how bad it is, how terrible that this person, this election denier, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, he's an erection denier. Here we go.
We faced adversity on September 11th, 2001, when the towers and the Pentagon were unexpectedly struck, killing thousands of lives in an instant. We faced adversity right here in the House of Representatives, when on January 6th, 2021, a violent mob of insurrectionists, incited by some in this chamber, overran the House floor as part of an effort to halt the peaceful transfer of power. Every time.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Patriots storming the Capitol. Just like having the Muslim extremists Agbu snack pouring into the buildings. That's right. And don't you know, we need to say it with a rhyme and with platitudes. Only thing we need is a beat in the background. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. But then Marjorie Taylor Greene pointed something out. You know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Maybe we ought to do something about this. Maybe, you know, the leadership in the House, the Republicans, should do something about this. Maybe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just last week, we witnessed here in this building, in the Cannon building, Democrat members of Congress lead in radical, leftist, communist, and pro-Hamas terrorist groups in what we would call an insurrection. If January 6th was an insurrection, this was absolutely an insurrection of terrorism. They brought them in this building. We have watched, just as you mentioned a few minutes ago in your testimony, we have watched Iran's treatment of women, which is horrific, but I want you to know it aligns with the Biden administration's treatment of women. While they replace women in our sports, in jails, in our women's clinics with trans men, and say that these men that pose as women have the same rights as we do. And they absolutely do not. And we have the Biden administration. Joe Biden, the president of the United States, wants 100 million.
Y'all read into stuff way too much. What does a white flag mean? It means he has a white jacket on. That's what it means. The simplest answer is usually true. You guys searching for stuff everywhere. So she's saying, well, if January 6th was 9/11, then the other day when radical pro-Islamist people like Sheep Tlaib brought these protesters into the Capitol, caused destruction of government property, our property. And as Aaron points out right now, he's saying most of the Jewish protesters, there was a bunch of dudes dressed in Jewish garb, but they were not, I'm sorry there, Bubba Building, but we don't share links on my page. If you want to build your Rumble channel, then go build your Rumble channel. It's that simple. So if they were protesters violently protesting that need to be locked in jail and the key thrown away and abused in solitary confinement, then these other people should be too, right? Excuse me. And then she went on to talk about how they're letting men in the women's sports and all this other stuff. Well, then I saw this story and I thought, well, that's interesting timing. So the swim competition allows a 50-year-old biological male to swim with 13-year-old girls because he claims to be a 13-year-old girl. Let me tell you something. Number one, the little tiny high school my kid goes to, my daughter, who's 15, doesn't have a swim team, but she's a cheerleader. If they had a 50-year-old man on the cheerleading team, I would be in jail and he would no longer be on the cheerleading team because that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I don't think it would happen in this little town anyways, but I'm just saying, if any of you preverts think that maybe you need to do something like that, don't do it around here. Don't do it around here. I'm just saying, this is not going to be good. Here's Mike Johnson in the past talking about impeachment.
Of the Constitution itself expressly states that the sole power of impeachment belongs here to this House. And then Article 2, Section 4 says, listen to the language carefully. It's expressly written in the Constitution. This is not political talking points. We're not making this up. It says in Article 2, Section 4, that the president shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes or misdemeanors. My friends, I just listed just a small sampling, just the tip of the iceberg of the credible allegations and the mounting evidence that shows that Joseph Biden has engaged in briberies, paid in placement. This is what the evidence shows. We have to follow it. We took an oath to uphold the Constitution. The Constitution requires this action. The inquiry is the appropriate step. We have no choice to pursue the facts wherever they lead, and we will leave no stone unturned.
So there he is talking about impeachment and how important he thinks impeachment is of Joe Biden. We'll get to some of that. There's some more coming out. There's breaking news on the Joe and Hunter Biden front. More information coming. Now we have a speaker that will actually push it forward. So we'll see. Well, that's what he says anyways. Matt Gaetz went out and talked to the press, talked about the reason that Jordan, the reason that a couple of the others didn't get it is because of Speaker McCarthy. Speaker McCarthy is the reason. Let me say this again. Speaker McCarthy is the reason we've delayed this for 3 weeks as he tried to regain his power or maintain his power.
Tom Emmer, I think, is well thought of. I think he's going to be a great whip for Mike Johnson, and he deserves a lot of credit for really moving through his campaign quickly, getting to a resolution. And what Tom Emmer and Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan all saw is that the actual saboteur of their candidacies was Kevin McCarthy. Because after Tom Emmer could not achieve the requisite votes and withdrew from the campaign, Mark Molinaro, a congressman from New York, made a unanimous consent request to poll the body on whether or not Mike Johnson would be an acceptable option. And you know who objected? Kevin McCarthy. Because at that point, he hadn't figured out a way yet how to scuttle Mike Johnson the way he scuttled Tom Emmer and Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan before. So the swampy, underhanded efforts of Kevin McCarthy were exposed and they were vanquished. And that's why all Americans should be excited about the ascendance of Mike Johnson to speakership.
There still seems to be quite a bit of bad blood inside the conference, despite this vote.
This is politics. We don't pitch underhand. I mean, this is the person who's second in line to the presidency. And think about the $1 billion in IOUs that the lobbyists and the special interests have for having funded Kevin McCarthy all these years. And now all of those IOUs are about as valuable as Confederate money, because Mike Johnson doesn't answer to the lobbyists and the special interests. He answers to God and the Constitution.
Well, there you have it. Bunch of underhanded, backstabbing games being played, which is, politics. So here's Matt Gaetz a little bit more. It gives a little bit more detail in this. This is on Real American Voice.
So as Emmer is withdrawing, Mark Molinaro, a moderate New York freshman Republican, stands up at the microphone and says, well, instead of restarting this process and having a candidate forum and sending everybody home for a good cry, let's just take a non-binding poll on where people would be on the person who came in second to Tom Emmer, and that was Mike Johnson. And Elise Stefanik said, well, that's against the rules. The rules don't contemplate it. We can't do that. And brilliantly, Mark Molinaro says, then I move for unanimous consent that the rules be waived and we take a poll on whether or not Mike Johnson could be our speaker nominee. And guess who objects to that unanimous consent request? Kevin McCarthy.
Who was that?
Kevin McCarthy stands up and
come on.
erupts and says, I object to doing a roll call on Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson was exasperated. All the times Johnson had voted for McCarthy, had carried his water, maybe even voted for some bills he didn't like because he was working toward the Republican conference's stated objectives under McCarthy. And here was the thing. It showed everyone that it was actually McCarthy who was working to knife Scalise. It was actually McCarthy who was working to knife Jim Jordan. It was McCarthy working to knife everyone. And he hadn't yet figured out a way to knife Mike Johnson. And so he was worried that there was going to be this great unifying moment, and he scuttled the unifying moment. So because of McCarthy's objection, we had to have this 3-hour delay. And, candidates announce again, have another forum. And guess what happens during that delay, Steve? Patrick McHenry runs to the House floor, opens it up out of recess, and then adjourns till noon today. Now, why did he do that? Because they were setting up a play to block Mike Johnson with write-in votes in the intra-conference process for Kevin McCarthy. They were promising people hearings on their favorite legislation, passage of bills. I heard people promised, maybe you'll get a chairmanship. And the play was for McCarthy to return as speaker, and then Jim Jordan to be the deputy speaker in some sort of like Dwight Schrute assistant to the regional manager posture. And that would have been debasing to Jordan, someone I like a great deal, and it would have been empowering to McCarthy. So Garrett Graves and all these people are working to try to effectuate this return of McCarthy. And they're telling us there are going to be 100 votes for McCarthy on the write-in. You know how many there were? 33 on the first write-in. So they flame out terribly. Mike Johnson's gaining momentum. Ultimately, McCarthy gets 43 to vote for him on a secret ballot, but Mike Johnson gets a majority. And then he says, you know what I want? I want a roll call vote, so that those 43 would have to announce themselves as being for a candidate who wasn't even running instead of a unifying force like Mike Johnson. And when we called for the roll call, do you know how many people voted for Kevin McCarthy? 0.
So here's the deal. They were doing all these backroom deals, these written secret ballots so that nobody knows who voted, so nobody had to be on the record. But when they finally got down to it, and a public vote, nobody voted for McCarthy because he's an underhanded scumbag. That's why. Underhanded scumbag. So Akeem Jeffries, who was over there comparing January 6th to 9/11 and accusing Mike Johnson of being the head cheese election denier. Well, Keem Jeffries is an election denier. 2/16/2018. The more we learn about 2016 election, the more illegitimate it becomes. America deserves to know whether we have a fake president in the Oval Office, as opposed to we will never bend the knee to the election deniers who poison our democracy. So stop poisoning our democracy when he does it. It's only poisoning our democracy when we do it. You see, have you ever noticed that the Democrats lambaste the Republicans for not reaching across the aisle enough and working with them to get their agenda? We need to do more for the American people, and those rascally Republicans need to work with us to do the will of the American people. Well, none of the people that voted for the Republicans voted for the Democrats. Is that not a true statement? So why don't you work with them to get the will of the American people done? Well, it's because we never move. We never compromise to the right. We only compromise to the left. We compromise. And at some point, somebody needs to ask the question. When we're 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42 trillion dollars in debt, and they come out with another multi-gazillion dollar spending bill, how do you compromise? Fine. Let's add another trillion. It don't matter. When abortion, if you believe in the sanctity of life, if you believe that God knitted you together in your womb, that God knew your name from the foundations of the earth, then how do you compromise? These are the questions. A compromiser is not principled. But you're just going to die on your hill if you stand on these principles. Yep. Die on the hill I shall. But you know what else? I just might win on that hill. And you know what? We'll never know if I compromise and surrender. That's the difference. Here's more points about Mike Johnson. People are asking me what I think about Mike Johnson. I have to admit, I didn't know much about the guy, but certain things jumped off the page at me to suggest we have the best speaker conservatives have ever had. He's from a generally conservative district. Never trust a California Republican like McCarthy. Did you hear that California is a cereal state? Fruits, nuts, and flakes. I'm just saying. He wanted Pelosi arrested after her disgusting stunt at the Trump State of the Union when she tore up the papers. Bill Kristol gives him an F on American involvement in Ukraine. He thinks there was substantial voter fraud in the 2020 election. And that all looks promising, don't you know? So, yes, we got to love the fact that Bill Kristol endorses the guy, in a roundabout sort of way. Here's DC Drano. He says, now that Kevin McCarthy has been successfully booted, it's time to replace the other two McFailures. Excuse me, doggone. The other two McFailures, Ronna Romney McDaniel and Mitch Zelensky simp McConnell. That's right. Let's get rid of both of them. Let's get this thing straightened out. Because their biggest problem, you got to understand that McConnell, McCarthy, and Ronna Romney McDaniel were the reason that we didn't win the Senate, and they're the reason that we only got a few seats majority in the House because they're the ones that diverted money away from mega candidates that could win, but threatened their personal power to rhino candidates that either couldn't win or didn't win in districts that were purple, that we had a shot. If we just spent some money. Good, regular American folks that were running for office that they sabotaged. Makes a Beastie Boys song come to mind. Or something. I don't know. Anyways. Here's a little bit more about Mike Johnson. Here's a speech that he made. Hopefully this ain't the same one. I don't think so.
Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution itself expressly states that the sole power of impeachment belongs here to this House. And then Article 2, Section 4 says, listen to the language carefully. It's expressly written in the Constitution. This is not political talking points. We're not making this up. It says in Article 2, Section 4 that the president shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. My friends, I just listed just a small sample, just the tip of the iceberg of the credible allegations and the mounting evidence that shows that Joseph Biden has engaged in bribery schemes, pay-to-play schemes. This is what the evidence shows. We have to follow it. We took an oath to uphold the Constitution. The Constitution requires this action. The inquiry is the appropriate step. We have no choice to pursue the facts wherever they lead, and we will leave no stone unturned.
Let's see if he does it. Let's see if he'll follow through now that he has actual power. We'll see. We shall surely see. Clay Higgins went live. I don't know if it's on Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or wherever he went live as he was leaving the Capitol yesterday, 1 a.m. in D.C., 10/25/23, and this is what he had to say.
This has been a long few weeks, America. It's quite complex, like the levels and layers of the swamp up here. But we have persevered, and without going too much into the forces that we have overcome, and granted the fact it's not quite over yet, we have to get Mike Johnson elected on the House floor tomorrow. But we have maintained our focus and our faith, America. We have not given up. Yes, I'm asking you, not give up. Believe in the future of our country, our anointed, beautiful America. Just can't give you, I don't have the words to express my love and dedication to you, America. Hang in there. Hang in there, man. Glorious days are coming. I'll keep you posted up here. Oh.
Come on now. There we go. So there he is. Looks like he's a bit wore out. But he says glorious days are coming. And here's a little bit more. I found this video on TikTok. Just some more evidence about who this man, Mike Johnson is. Well, he's got a great first name. I'll begin with that. Here we go.
And ladies, if you were going to resist and complain about Mike Johnson becoming Speaker of the House, then you're going to watch this. We actually might see real tears, people.
About to talk about hard evidence here. It's really ironic this hearing is covering the left's censorship of opposing viewpoints, and you've all seen it on display all day long. They've been doing exactly that. They've been trying to bully and defame our witnesses and try to cover up their opinions. They actually began the hearing with a motion to prevent them from testifying. You can't make this stuff up. It's on broad display for everybody. They did the same thing yesterday in the hearing with the IRS whistleblowers. You know why? Because the Democrats are panicked right now. They're panicked because it's impossible to cover up the inescapable conclusions of the last few weeks. Let me give you two of them. First, one, the hard evidence, Mr. Goldman and everybody else, now proves that the Biden family is hopelessly corrupt and has apparently engaged in a long pattern of extortion, bribery, influence peddling, and tax fraud, and staggering abuses of power. And number two, we're highlighting here today that we now know that a growing list of the most important executive branch agencies of the Biden administration are in on it. They've also been corrupted. They've been weaponized to help cover all this up, the first family's crimes. When we summarize all this stuff, it sounds like a premise of a dystopian novel or something, but it's actually happening right now on our watch. This is not conspiracy theories, this is evidence. Our hearing today is to put a spotlight on one more of these incredible avenues of unprecedented corruption and government cover-up. And here again, a federal court has just affirmed all that hard evidence. It proves that the White House, the Department of Justice, and the FBI, among other agencies, threatened and coerced the social media platforms to censor and suppress disfavored viewpoints and conservatives' social media posts online. I'm grateful we have with us today two individuals, Mr. Kennedy and Ms. Harris, who were directly impacted by that censorship, and the third, Mr. Sauer, who we're about to speak with, serving as lead counsel in the landmark lawsuit against the federal government on this issue. Let's talk facts. The American people are not aware of the magnitude of this case, Mr. Sauer, and its profound implications because most of the mainstream media is in on it too, and they're trying to bury the story. In brief, in May of last year, the attorneys general of my state, Louisiana, and the state of Missouri filed suit in U.S. District Court of the Western District of Louisiana. This blatant censorship. They went after the blatant censorship by the Biden White House in 9 of its federal agencies. 2 weeks ago on Independence Day, the district court issued a truly extraordinary 155-page court opinion, a ruling granting the plaintiff's request for preliminary injunction. Mr. Sauer, your lead counsel in that litigation. You referenced some in your opening statement, but let's do it again here because they don't seem to be paying attention. Can you give a summary again of some of the key components of that opinion and the basis for it? I know you mentioned there were 82 pages of detailed factual findings, right?
That is correct. 82 pages, 577 citations of the record evidence. That evidence is drawn from about 20,000 pages of the government's own communications with social media platforms and 6 full-length depositions of senior federal officials with firsthand knowledge of federal censorship practices.
It's absolutely staggering. And now they've tried to bury this and say, well, the Fifth Circuit entered a temporary administrative stay. They granted an expedited briefing and oral argument, however, for August 10th. What's the impact of that? Isn't that routine practice in the Fifth Circuit?
That's a direct quote from the recent Fifth Circuit decision, N. Ray Abbott, which is cited in my written testimony. It's legally incorrect, clearly legally incorrect to describe them as vacating the injunction, which has happened multiple times.
They either don't know the law or, I don't know, they're trying to obscure the facts. That's a theme around here. The White House and the fellow Democrats disputed almost none of the factual findings in the court. Isn't that right?
So far, we've had 2 emergency stay motions from the Department of Justice, one in the district court, one in the Court of Appeals. And what really struck me in reading those is they just don't dispute those 82 pages of factual findings. Almost none of them are directly disputed in what they've filed so far.
So at the very beginning of this lengthy opinion, the court explains the staggering scope of the government censorship uncovered here. At page 2, the court explains, quote, if the allegations made by the plaintiffs are true, the present case arguably involves the most massive attack on free speech in United States history. The court called it dystopian, Orwellian. How broad has this attack been? How many Americans have been censored?
There's judicial findings again and again in the opinion of millions of American voices silenced by these efforts.
And it had profound impacts. We know, we just saw the poll in the data that's been entered here, facts, not conjecture, that it probably changed the outcome of the election. The court noted that they suppressed, among other topics, the Hunter Biden laptop story. And the court noted, not you, not me, not Republicans, that millions of Americans were not exposed to that story. Had they been, we know they might have voted differently. We'll never be able to unwind history, but wow, I mean, the profound impacts. What are some of the other categories of speech that the government suppressed with its unconstitutional scheme?
Well, the court made findings on that. I just quote them: opposition to COVID-19 vaccines, opposition to COVID-19 masking and lockdowns, the lab leak theory of COVID-19, opposition to President Biden's policies, statements that the Hunter Biden laptop story was true, oppositions to the policies of government officials in power. All were suppressed. And that's just some examples, many other examples in the court's findings and in the discovery in the case.
I so wish I weren't out of time. I yield back.
Gentlemen.
Here he is, says the first speaker designate Mike Johnson did last night was asked, the first thing he did was ask the Republican caucus to pray with him. And then there's this photo. I believe that's him right there. That's Clay Higgins right there. So, you know, hey, seemed like a pretty good dude. Now, they went on and on and on in that video. What they were talking about was this landmark case out of Louisiana. He's from Louisiana and Missouri that went before the courts, won at the lower levels, where they put the court put a stay, is the stay the right word, a junction, a cease and desist, basically, onto the federal government, telling them they cannot be communicating in any form or fashion with social media or any other media, giving them orders and or talking points, whatever, on how to disrupt conservative thought. This went up the chain of command, been turned over, overturned, and then turned back, and then back and forth through the courts. The stay has remained in place. The Supreme Court decided to take up the case. But the first thing they said was they removed the stay so the federal government can now interfere in elections. They can talk to Twitter, they can talk to Facebook, they can put pressure on them, whatever. But the Supreme Court is still going to hear the case. Here's the story. This is from Conservative Brief. It's the Supreme Court to hear case on government suppression, censorship, and social media. This is what they were arguing about. This is what he was talking about in that video. In a decision that many conservatives will likely applaud, the U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to hear the case that will decide just how far the U.S. government can go in forcing social media companies to censor or suppress certain information. The High Court announced that it will issue a writ of certiorari, whatever that word, in a lawsuit filed against the Biden administration by GOP attorney generals in Missouri and Louisiana, in which the state seeks to limit the federal government's ability to censor, the ability to pressure social media platforms like Facebook, X, and YouTube to stifle certain information without actually telling them to do so. Both states have argued that it would amount to obvious First Amendment violation against freedom of speech. Louisiana Solicitor General Liz Murrill praised the High Court's decision in the Friday statement. We are pleased to learn that the U.S. Supreme Court will hear this case, giving us yet another opportunity to defend the people from this assault on the First Amendment rights, Murrill said. It brings us one step closer to reestablishing the protections guaranteed to us in the Constitution and under the First Amendment. We hope that the Supreme Court will agree that the gross abuse of power must stop and never happen again, she added. Said the lawsuit, initially filed by Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry and Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt in May of 22, dealt with how the government put pressure on tech giants to censor certain information, particularly as related to the COVID-19 pandemic and the efficiency and or dangers potentially posed by mask wearing, vaccines, and other measures. In a ruling in July 4th, U.S. District Court Terry Daughtry fired the first shot in a legal volley. In the case, issuing a decision that blocked a number of federal agencies, specifically the Department of Health and Human Services, the National Institute of Allergy and Infection Diseases, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the U.S. Census Bureau, the FBI, the Department of Justice from interacting with companies in a way that could be construed as encouraging, pressuring, or inducing in any manner the removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of any content containing protected speech. The Associated Press reported on September that the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans mostly ruled in favor of both states, but tossed the broader language in the order that the Louisiana-based federal judge had issued on July 4th that effectively blocked multiple government agencies from contacting platforms like Facebook and X to urge the removal of content. But while the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, it also paused Doughty's injunction, though some of the court's conservative justices, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Neil Gorsuch, all they need is one more, said they would have left the injunction in place, despite the government's conspicuous failure to establish a threat of irreparable harm. The majority says the injunction and thus allows the majority stays the injunction, thus allows the defendants to persist in committing the type of First Amendment violations that lower courts identified. Alito wrote in a 5-page dissent on the decision to stay the injunction. The majority takes this action in the face of lower courts' detailed findings of fact. So that's what he was talking about. That's what they were debating, is whether or not our government was involved in doing nefarious things. And by golly, they were, in trying to censor the American people. You know, Russia, Russia, Russia. You know, that's disinformation, dismal or misinformation. Remember all that? Of course, I always said all along that dismal or misinformation is not necessarily wrong information. It's just information that the government doesn't want you to have. Here's General Flynn.
What the new speaker is going to have to do, and I mean immediately, Steve, these guys can't go and start patting themselves on the back and take a 3-day weekend. I want to see these guys like you do, Steve, 24 hours a day. Put cots, hots and cots in halls of Congress. Start sleeping in your offices, because the American people we've had enough. We are running out of time. We have maybe one more year left before we have an election. Whether or not we have that election, this administration is going to play all kinds of games. And we have a global problem right now, and I haven't even mentioned China, although you and I have had great conversations about China and how much China has in terms of global influence. And the other component of this, Steve, is this digital currency. And I know we've talked about this. You've talked about this role of the BRICS, the BRICS plus 7, right? BRICS plus 7, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, plus a 7 other nations that joined the BRICS. That represents about 75% of the world's population. And they are about to move to this central bank digital currency that is going to potentially crush the U.S. dollar, certainly change the course of the U.S. dollar.
So there he goes. He kind of converted into what's happening real quick. We're facing some serious economic, as they say, headwinds. It's actually more along the lines of a hurricane and a tsunami as things start to unwind economically from all over the place. Here's a deal from yesterday. It says Turkey Stock Exchange halted twice today with double circuit breakers. So you see here where it stopped and it dumped and then it hit a circuit breaker. I told you it's going to start happening in these smaller countries, and it's going to come here. There is a time coming where we will be hitting circuit breakers. The way that works on our stock exchanges is when it hits a certain percentage down, they have a circuit breaker. They stop trading for like 20 minutes. Then trading resumes. What do you think is going to happen as soon as that trading resumes? Right? Well, excuse me. Those circuit breakers are, I don't know if they're a good thing or a bad thing, but here's you have it happening in Turkey and other places around the world as these worldwide economies start. And so you got a problem, got a deal. All these people's currencies are pegged to the dollar. Well, the dollar is great. It's backed by the good faith and credit of the United States of America. Yeah, until it isn't. And then what do? Huh? Janet Yellen, she's running around on her speaking tour telling everybody how great everything is. It kind of sounds something like this. Here's Janet B. Yellen.
Look, the American economy is doing extremely well. Inflation has been high and it's been a concern to households. It's come down considerably. At the same time, we have about the strongest labor market we've seen in 50 years.
Everything is awesome. The best job market we've had in 50 years because we're manipulating it and just ignoring the evidence. Just ignore it. Yeah, mostly peaceful economy. Yeah, that's right, Aaron. And then there's this guy. The economy is doing so well. The problem is that we do right speak, double speak. I've been having conversations with my daughter because her teacher, who's a lib, a flame, they haven't decided the gender of their child. The child hasn't decided their gender yet. This teacher, anyways, they are reading Animal Farm right now. I asked my daughter, so what chapter are you at? She says chapter 7. And I said, are the pigs living in the house yet? Oh yeah. I said, so what does this sound like to you? She goes, well, our teacher says that it's a representation of the revolution in Russia, where they thought it was going to be a really good thing and it sounded great, but some people took it over and messed it up. I said, really? That's what he's teaching you that this is about? I said, just think about everything that's going on in our. You pay attention to it just because you're in the room when I'm studying it. And she goes, yeah. I said, what if the pigs represented this current administration, who by hook or by crook made it in? She goes, yeah. They sent out the dogs to go anybody that didn't like them and chase them down. I said, yeah, exactly. What if the dogs are Antifa and Black Lives Matters? Oh, you're a racist. You called them dogs. No. I'm making an analogy with the book. What if those are the foot soldiers, the minions out there? What if they're the Palestinian activists causing a ruckus so they can get their agenda? She goes, well, I never really looked at it like that. I said, well, that's exactly why this book was written. It's describing exactly what's going on today. Apply all these things to today, not to the Russian Revolution 100 years ago. And then you have these people, pigs, I guess you could call, who are entitled because of their status, because of their skin color, because whatever. They just do what they want. Rules don't apply to me. So all animals are equal, just some are more equal than others. Guys like this guy. And I do mean guy.
First of all, okay, I'm gonna tell the truth, but I feel like you're just trying to accuse me of stealing. No, broke people steal. I'm shoplifting. And let me tell you why.
I just feel like you're accusing me of stealing. And then she goes, well, you are taking stuff without paying for it, so that's stealing. Broke people steal. I'm shoplifting. So, in other words, I have the money to pay for it. I'm just not going to because I'm entitled. And where do they get the idea that they're entitled? Because the left has been pushing this agenda for nearly 100 years. And this agenda right here is straight from the pit of hell. This agenda from an American president is the Communist Manifesto, if you go read it. Here we go.
Certain economic truths have become accepted as self-evident. a second Bill of Rights, under which a new basis of security and prosperity can be established for all, regardless of station or race or creed. Among these are the right to a useful and remunerative job in the industries or shops or farms or mines throughout the nation. The right to earn enough to provide adequate food and clothing and recreation. The right of every farmer to raise and sell his products at a return which will give him and his family a decent living. The right of every businessman, large and small, to trade in an atmosphere of freedom, freedom from unfair competition and domination by monopolies at home or abroad. The right of every family to a decent home, the right to adequate medical care, and the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health. The right to adequate protection from the economic fears of old age, sickness, accident, and unemployment. The right to a good education. All of these rights spell security.
So there you have Roosevelt and his raw New Deal. Our government's going to give rights to housing, rights to employment, rights to health care. Does that sound familiar? The difference between those rights and then inalienable rights that come from God is that they're God appointed and individually created. But if government comes along and gives you health care as a right, they can take the health care as a punishment. If government comes along and gives you housing as a right, they can take the housing as a punishment. If government comes along and gives you a job as a right, they can take the job as a punishment. If government comes along and gives you food as a right, they can take your food as a punishment. But there's another side to this coin, because if government gives you housing and food and health care and transportation and a job as a right, they have to first steal that from someone else that becomes your slave. Communism, socialism is slavery. Period. In the words of Milton Friedman, capitalism is what happens in the absence of tyranny. It doesn't matter what something costs. It doesn't matter what something is or how you pay for it. In the free exchange of value, this is Ayn Rand, in the free exchange of value to one's self-interest above all. What does that mean? That means if you have something that I want and I have something that you want, out of our own self-interest, I want and you want, we can exchange those two somethings and we both benefit. We both walk away better. We both walk away with the advantage because we both got what we wanted. That's capitalism. But the government steps in and says, no, 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 no. You can't exchange. I have 12 goats. You have 12 cows. You want a mama goat and a daddy goat so that you can make more goats. I want a mama cow and a daddy cow, which would be a bull, so I can make more cows. We exchange. Government steps in and says, that's not a fair exchange. Goats are not worth as much as cows. But in your case, you had too many cows. In my case, I had too many goats. It was a mutually benefit for both of us. And the government saying I got ripped off. The government saying he made too much. But what business is that of the government? Yes, he realizes that the cow was worth more than the goat, but he didn't have any goats. And he wanted one. In a more complicated economic situation, he took his cows and sold them at the market and bought a goat. And I took my goats and sold them at the market and bought a cow. That's a more equitable exchange. But it's still a free exchange. And that's the problem. Is they don't want the free exchange, because if we have a free exchange, if you're trading with your neighbor farmer a goat for a cow and a cow for a goat, the government doesn't get their fair share. And if the government doesn't get their fair share, how are they going to lord it over you? That's where we are today. That's literally who we are today. Do me a favor. Speaking of trading goats, check out my product, the Liquid BioCell. A little capitalistic break for me. Don't go away. We got more to talk about. We ain't got to the shooter yet. We ain't got to the nukes yet. Don't go away. Hang on. Just give me 60 seconds here. Profit Center timeout, as old Rushbo would say. But the Liquid BioCell's changed my life, and it'll change yours too. Look, I know that you guys are getting older just like me. Everybody's getting older. If you're not getting older, well, then you're dead. So if you're alive, you're getting older. If you're a young person, take a word of advice from a person who's 52 years old. You're going to regret the things you're doing today. I'm just saying, it's going to hurt. So start now. If you're my age and you're regretting the things you did back then, and you got to snap, the crackle, the creaking, and the pop, you wake up in the morning with the, oh. Yeah, well, this stuff will help you with that. I'm telling you, if you're not trying it, Carol says, I buy your BioCell and it really works. See? I'm just saying, right there on the screen. This stuff made a difference for me to make a difference for you. I was hurting all the time. It was terrible. My wife made me start taking this stuff. I started taking it. Man, did I feel better. I tell you what, it does it because it improves joint mobility and lubrication. That's what I'm talking about. It improves your cardiovascular health, which is like, that's a bonus. And improves skin hydration, firmness, and tone, meaning it gets rid of the wrinkles from the inside out. It helps with your brittle nails. It helps with your thinning hair. It helps make your hair follicles stronger and all that stuff. I don't know how it works. It's magic. But it does have a collagen HA matrix technology. It's not really magic. I don't believe in magic. It's all natural. There's no harsh chemicals. It's completely safe for the environment. This company prides itself on being clean and safe and pure products. And here's the thing about it. You can go to their website and you can check it out. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to put in your information or anything. All you have to do is go over to the Patriot Mike Show fan page on Facebook. Subscribe while you're there so you might get notification when I'm live. Go to my wife's post where she's eating the chocolate sauce, makes your pants fall off. There's another collagen product we have called Trim that inhibits fat storage, improves muscle tone, and restores youthful skin. I've started taking it in about a week. I've lost 8 pounds. I'm just saying. We have another product called Burn, which I can't take Burn because it's a stimulant. It's a caffeine stimulant. Okay. Some people can take them just fine. Some people drink these kind of things, them stupid caffeine, highly caffeinated drinks, those, whatever they're called. You know what I'm talking, like the Monsters and stuff. There's too much. I'll stick with my caffeine in the coffee. I don't know what it is, but my mother-in-law was taking this product in October of 2020. You can see the difference between October of 2020 and October of 21. She went from a size 28 to a size 12, just taking the chocolate sauce that makes your pants fall off and the Burn. And if you want to get your hand on these products, like I said, just go over there and comment on my wife's post. Or if you don't want to, send me a message on any platform here where you're watching me that you can send me a message. Or you can send me a text message to 660-620-2644 or an email to patriotmikeshow@gmail.com. And don't forget about the don't forget about the Moder Ova. Don't forget about the Ova. Don't forget about the Ova. Ladies, it's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer for my wife says it made her a new woman. It is women's health for that time of the month. You know, all the symptoms that you get, whether you're still going through it, getting the PMS and all that stuff, or whether you're at the end of it, where you're getting the menopause. They have a formula for you, and it helps defeat those symptoms. And women, I tell you, there must have been 50 or 100. I don't know how many. Been sending my wife messages. Don't send them to me, and I don't blame them because I'm not a woman. I don't understand. And how that product by itself, that product has changed their life. So go over there, check it out. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to become a member. You don't have to become a distributor. You don't have to watch a bunch of videos. You don't have to go to no meetings. You just create an account. Tell us where you want us to send the product and how you're going to pay for it. Now, if there is an opportunity here for somebody who wants to make a few extra bucks, get your own promo code, which is what I'm going to send you, which saves you a few bucks off your first purchase. This company pays well and pays daily. Think about that. Anyways, you need to try it sometime, Ginger. You need to try it now. Now. Don't wait. Sometime may never come. All right, let's get started. I apologize. For all y'all that dropped off, well, you're missing out because I've got the latest news. We're breaking news today, ladies and gentlemen. The Russians are here. The Russians are here. The Russians are here. The Russians are here. That's right. Panic in the streets. The Russians are here. So we need to go to war as soon as possible and blow them all up. That's right. I told you last week about how the Russians, about how the Russians were accusing the United States of test firing a nuclear weapon buried in the ground in Arizona. I don't know if it happened or didn't happen, but they were accusing us. And like I've said before, when the second largest superpower on the planet with nukes, is concerned about things, maybe you ought to look into it. Maybe you ought to consider their thought process, because they decided they're going to test fire a few things over the weekend. Russia test fired an intercontinental ballistic missile the other day. Here's another view of it. Saber rattling, just proving they could do it. So Russia test fired an intercontinental. The Russian Ministry of Defense says that it test fired the Yaris intercontinental ballistic missile. Yesterday, the Russians had a nationwide preparedness drill of a full-on nuclear strike and nuclear retaliation against their enemies. Those kind of things haven't been done since the Cold War. Russia's also stated that they're looking at stepping out of the nuclear proliferation treaties that they signed with the United States because of actions of the Biden administration. Nothing to see here. No big deal, right? I mean, Joe Biden, we can have faith that Joe Biden's got this thing under control because he's Joe Biden. Russians say it rehearsed a massive nuclear strike. The military exercise involved delivering a response to an enemy nuclear strike. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said, I'm not going to try. The state TV showed him recounting the rehearsal to President Vladimir Putin. It comes as Russian parliament backed the withdrawal of Moscow's ratification of the global treaty that bans physical testing of nuclear warheads. Like I said last week, they were accusing the United States of doing it. Russia and the United States conducted regular nuclear readiness simulations. Moscow is traditionally held on towards the end of October. The exercise this year involved delivering a massive nuclear strike by strategic offensive forces in response to an enemy nuclear strike, Mr. Shoigu reported to President Putin. A Kremlin statement said that practical launches of ballistic and cruise missiles had taken place. The Yaris intercontinental ballistic missile was fired from a test site in Russia's Far East, and another missile was fired from a nuclear-powered submarine in the Barents Sea. Statement said. Here's the test of the rocket. Earlier this month, Mr. Putin said Russia had held a first successful test of a nuclear-powered cruise missile. The experimental weapon, just announced in 2018, was hailed as saving a potentially unlimited range, or having a potentially unlimited range. The President Putin's account has not been independently confirmed. It wasn't a cruise missile. It was a torpedo. The latest test will be seen as a display of force, which coincides with Moscow de-ratifying the International Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. So, yeah. So the idea behind the nuclear powered, it's not a cruise missile. They got that wrong in the reporting. It's a torpedo. You could launch a torpedo from Russian territory, and it's a stealthy underwater torpedo. It doesn't travel that fast, but it can travel indefinitely underwater. You know, go right up the Potomac. Boom. See, nuclear weapons with like hand grenades are not a pinpoint weapon. You just got to get kind of close. Just saying. You don't have to be 100% accurate to cause death, mayhem, and whatnot. So, you know, hey, whatever. It's no big deal. Joe Biden's in charge, so we should be fine. The adults are in charge. Finally, the adults are in charge. Gee whiz, I've been waiting so long for the adults to show up and be in charge because, man, it's been kind of scary out there without, you know, we had a bunch of mean tweets and a president that said bad things about Rosie O'Donnell. Now we got the adults in charge, and World War III and stuff's happening. So it's a good thing they're there or something. Anyways, there's that. So here's a speaking of good thing the adults are in charge. Good thing that we have you know, taking care of things. Here's a statement somebody put out. We find it here real quick. Oh yeah, right here. Just think about this. This is a meme. Just think about this. CIA, FBI, Hamas are now going to stage a terror attack on America and blame it on Trump somehow. Think about that for a minute. Think about that as we talk about our borders. Now, here is something. There was a hearing, I think it was yesterday in the Senate. And a Missouri senator, I'm just totally drawing a blank. Anyways, Missouri senator asked questions. Josh Hawley. Man, I don't know why my mind went away with that. Is asking questions of this lady that's in charge of the children as they come across the border. Listen to this.
Ms. Marcos, can I just start with you? You testified a moment ago to Senator Butler that every child gets a Know Your Rights presentation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that before or after you release them to labor traffickers?
Bam.
Senator, every child that comes into our care gets a Know Your Rights presentation, as well as...
Have you read these New York Times reports, these stories, the series of stories the New York Times has done on the children who are in your care? Have you read them?
Yes, I have.
Have you read that children are scrubbing dishes? They are operating heavy machinery. They are delivering meals. They are harvesting coffee. They are working construction. They are working as housekeepers. They are working overnight shifts at plants where they are not paid. They are not going to school. They are not cared for. They are not giving meals. Almost all of it illegally. Are you aware of that? That's a yes or no.
Yes.
That's a yes or no. Yeah. Huh. Are you aware that they're bringing them across the border and releasing them into child traffickers? Yes. Are you going to do anything about it? No. And then there's Senator Kennedy. I think that's this one. Let me see. Yeah. Here's Kennedy, and he's asking the same question. Well, he's asking questions about the border to some other folks. And listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Morant, since President Biden's been president, how many non-American citizens have come into our country illegally or on the basis of a claim of asylum?
Thank you, Senator. HSI as an investigative agency is...
do you know the number?
No, Senator.
You're a senior member of Homeland Security, are you not?
That's correct.
Does anybody know the number? None of you know the number. Try 8 million. Now, of that 8 million, how many were children, Mr. Morant?
I don't have that number.
You don't know. Does anybody know? None of you know. Isn't that special? Let's assume half. Okay. 8 million is 4 Nebraskas. Right? 4 new states. Let's assume, I don't think it's as high, half of them are children. How many of those 8 million people are still here? Do any of you know? Okay. How many of those 8 million are claiming asylum? You don't know? How many of them claim asylum and don't show up for their hearing? Nobody knows? How many of them claim asylum, don't show up for the hearing, and President Biden has deported them? You don't know? How many of them have claimed asylum, shown up for their asylum hearing, and been denied asylum and been deported? You don't know.
You don't know. They don't know. They don't know. They don't know. They don't know. And, you know, we're only facing down worldwide terrorism. We got the war hawks banging the drums for war. And right on cue, as we get a new speaker, breaking news from Fox News last night. Right on cue. It's almost like they had it planned or something. I don't know. I'm sure it's just a coincidence.
Fox News alert. An active shooter is on the loose in Maine. The city of Lewiston is on lockdown. Unconfirmed reports say multiple people were shot in 2 locations with possible fatal injuries. Police have released a photo of the suspect. There he is carrying a rifle in the entrance to a bowling alley. Police are asking residents to stay inside and lock their doors. We'll keep you updated.
Stay inside and lock your doors, and everybody panic. There's a shooter going on. You know, these kind of shooters. There's an interesting catch to this story, and we'll get to it in just a minute. But here's the warning: stay inside, blah, 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 shelter in place. In Missouri, they would include lock and load, but that's a different story. They don't have that in the East Coast. Here he is right here. That's a picture of him. That's the best they can do. They're trying to figure out the guy. I don't know. I haven't been watching the news. Have they caught him yet? You know, they've been out trying to catch this guy. It's been a massive panic. It's been all over the news. We ain't got to talk about the other things that are in the news because we're talking about this that's in the news. And then they come out and they said they know who this guy is, Robert C. Card. And here's his picture. Because that looks like the dude that we just saw. I don't know. And then some more information. As information started trickling out through the evening, we started seeing some more of it. So here he is again. They said it's this guy. Then they said, no, it's this guy, because those two guys look the same. One of these things is not like the other. Then they said, no, it's this guy, because those three guys look the same.
The witnesses who were in and around those areas.
Oops, wait a second. I didn't mean to remove that. So now this is Fox News. Let me preference this. There's a shooting going on, and they're interviewing witnesses. I'm sure they had a madra of choices of witnesses to put on, some good, some bad, some indifferent. But this is the guy they chose to air. We are living in a clown world. We are living in a clown story. This is the guy, Fox News. Fox, you know, we report, you decide kind of news. Active shooter, active manhunt. This is the guy, the man on the street interview they decided to put up. Watch this.
Witnesses who were in and around those areas. Watch this.
Thank God my son has technology where he has a smartphone. So he's got the scanner and he's following it all. So I've had all my friends on the phone with me to make sure they're safe. Until I told them, lock your doors, lock your windows, because you don't know what this person's capable of.
Lock your doors, lock your windows, hide your children, because this dude right here don't know what we don't know what he's capable of. This is the guy they picked. I know it's Halloween and stuff, but so here's some more information. Breaking: suspect in Lewiston, Maine, mass shooting identified as Robert Card, a firearms instructor in the U.S. Army Reserve who was recently discharged from a mental health facility after reporting hallucinations. It looks to me like several people in Lewiston, Maine suffer from hallucinations and stuff or something. I don't know. So, yeah, we got a shooter going on around here. We got this happening. So do I still have that story? Take down. Let me just tell you something. They're saying that, and I don't know how they know this, but they're saying that he planned on attacking a Army Reserve base, but instead attacked a bowling alley. Carry the one. Yeah, that adds up, right? He chose not to attack the place with armed guards and go after the place without the armed guards. Duh. A heavily armed society is a peaceful society. All I got to say is try that in a small town, Missouri, whether it be the bowling alley or the Walmart. When I'm someplace, if I'm someplace and there's a crowd of people in Missouri and somebody starts shooting like this guy, I will be carrying, but I will not return fire because my first instinct will be to hit the ground and cover my head. Because let me tell you something. The first round's pow, 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 the bad guy shooting. The second round is going to sound like an A-10 flyby. Because every redneck hillbilly from lower Missouri is going to get a chance to get their shooting on. Tired of hunting them there deer. Want to hunt something a little better. The return fire. Like the old song says, 40 shots rang out and 40 people fell. Patty and the killer missed each other, but they shot that town to hell. I mean, it's going to be, I would not want to be that guy. Look, here's a word of advice to all wannabe active shooters out there. Don't do it in central Missouri. I guarantee more than half of every man, woman, and some children are packing heat. Some of them are packing multiple heats. Some of these rednecks have been waiting, praying for the day that some jihadi started screaming Ogbu snack bar. I mean, we get to play cowboys and towel heads. Please, Lord, let it be, they say. I don't know. There's things don't add up about this whole story, as usual, in these cases. Say that again. Ogbu snack bar. Come on. I've been saying it for a couple weeks now. Me and Aaron have got it all figured out. See, we've discussed this. The Ogbu snack bar, it serves pork patties. It serves BLTGs or LGBT, whatever it is. Lettuce, tomato. What is it? LBGT. They had guacamole to it to get the LBGT in there. That's it. LBGT. It's a gay sandwich. It makes you happy. Anything with bacon on it makes you happy. The best pork in town. That's right. At the Abu Snack Bar. And that it's really popular in the Mideast. Me and Aaron have discovered this because all these jihadis are always screaming Ogbu Snack Bar, Ogbu Snack Bar. They're chanting for it. Ogbu Snack Bar. You know, every time they launch a rocket up, they're going, we got to go to the Ogbu Snack Bar, get something to eat. They're always chanting it. So it's a real popular place. Oh, yes. Mike, you're just mean. Yeah, well, you know, it's blowing people up in pizzerias because they don't believe the same faith you do. But what do I know? Here's an interesting breaking story that I found slightly inconvenient for the Biden administration. FBI received criminal information from over 40 confident sources on Joe Biden, Hunter, and James Biden, according to Grassley. Now, what's this all about? Exclusive. The FBI maintained more than 40 confidential human sources on various criminal matters related to the Biden family, including Joe Biden, dating back to his time as vice president, according to information obtained by Senator Chuck Grassley in Iowa. The confidential human sources, in other words, these are people who were either put in position or turncoated on Joe Biden and was spilling the beans. They provided criminal information to the FBI relating to Joe Biden. Those confidential human sources were managed by multiple FBI field offices. So it wasn't one field office. It wasn't one investigation. It was from all over the place across the nation, including the FBI Seattle field office. But Grassley learned that the FBI task force within the Washington field office sought to, and in some cases successfully, shut down reporting and information from these sources by falsely discrediting the information as foreign disinformation. That effort caused an investigation activity to cease. However, despite those efforts by the FBI task force, Grassley said in at least one instance, a confidential human source and its information had been vetted by multiple U.S. attorney offices, which found no hits to known Russians to known sources of Russian disinformation. The revelations were laid out in a letter Grassley wrote to Attorney General Merrick Garland and the FBI Director Christopher Wray late Tuesday night. The letter was exclusively obtained by Fox News Digital based on information provided to my office over the period of years. Okay, let's stop here for a second. Based on information provided to my office over a period of years by multiple credible whistleblowers. So Grassley has been sitting on this information until now. Until now. Until we get a new Speaker of the House. I find that interesting. Until we get a new Speaker of House, so we can have a new emphasis on these hearings, so we can move forward with impeachment or something. Interesting. There appears to be an effort within the Justice Department and the FBI to shut down investigative activity relating to the Biden family, Grassley wrote to Garland and Wray. Such decisions point to significant political bias infecting the decision-making of not only the Attorney General and the FBI Director, but also line agents and prosecutors. He added, our republic cannot survive such a political infection, and you have the obligation to this country to clear the air. Grassley has been investigating for years information, records, and allegations from multiple Justice Department whistleblowers that indicate there is and has been an effort among certain Justice Department and FBI officials to improperly delay and stop full and complete investigation activity in the Biden family, including but not limited to FD 1023s referencing the Biden family. An FD 1023 is a federally generated form used to document confidential human source reporting. An essential question that must be answered is this: did the FBI investigate the informant or shut it down? Grassley wrote, noting that if those sources were improperly shut down, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for the FBI. One critical FD 1023 question was first reported by Fox News Digital earlier this year. From the form included reporting from a highly credible, confidential human source who alleged a criminal bribery scheme between then Vice President Joe Biden, his son Hunter Biden, and the founder and CEO of Ukrainian national gas firm Burisma Holdings, Mikhail Zololinsky. From the details, multiple meetings and conversations the source had with the top executive of Burisma Holdings over the course of several years, stating that in 2015, Hunter Biden, at the same time, sat on the board of Burisma. He wasn't president when he got that $200,000 check, or vice president or public office. Where was he in 2015? Oh, that's right. He was the point man to Ukraine. Where was he in 2015? What was he doing in 2015 that would be relevant to this situation right here? I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything.
And I was supposed to announce that there's another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch.
You are a blabbermouth! A blabbermouth! You! Blabbermouth! Out!
Well, how about that? By golly, that rings a bell. Geez, the source told the FBI that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden allegedly coerced Zelensky to pay them millions of dollars in exchange for their help getting the Ukrainian prosecutor investigating the company, Burisma, Viktor Shokin, fired. Huh. You mean the one that you said you don't get the $1 billion if you don't fire the prosecutor? That guy? You know what that is right there? A smoking gun. Do you know why I play that one? Blabbermouth, you're a blabbermouth. Because if Joe Biden had kept his flipping mouth shut, he would have what Bobulinski says that Jim Biden, how they get away with all the things they do, he would have plausible deniability. Well, I didn't know what my son was doing. I didn't know. It was just American policy to get rid of that guy. But because Joe Biden on camera admitted to the quid pro quo firing the prosecutor, and then it turns out that he got the millions of dollars, $5 million for him and $5 million for Hunter, from Burisma just prior to that happening. Well, by golly gee willikers, they impeached Donald J. Trump in the House for making a phone call to Zelensky. And they called it a quid pro quo because he asked Zelensky to look into that. That right there. Huh. Quid pro quo, you say. Donald Trump didn't get $5 million. Joe Biden did. Back to the story. The White House has denied the allegation. If you don't fire the prosecutor, you don't get the $1 billion. Well, deny all you want. But that form and those allegations are part of an ongoing investigating matter, which Grassley says indicates is investigative credibility and authenticity. That word. In a letter transmitted to the DOJ and the FBI late Tuesday, Grassley revealed that in December of 2019, the Washington field office closed the 205B kleptocracy case into Zelensky. That probe had been opened in January 2016 by the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act squad based out of the same field office. The squad had included agents from FBI headquarters. At that time of closing the probe in December 2019, Hunter Biden's role on the board of Burisma was heavily under the microscope amid the first impeachment of former President Donald Trump, what I was just talking about. They impeached Donald Trump for what Joe Biden did. Period. The cover-up was the impeachment. The impeachment proceedings were based upon a request from Trump to Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to investigate the Biden family business dealings in Ukraine and why the prosecutor investigating Burisma had been fired, because they wouldn't get the $1 billion if he wasn't fired. Months later, in February 2020, Grassley said in a meeting took place at the FBI Pittsburgh field office, which involved discussion about investigative matters relating to Hunter Biden investigation related to inquiries. By March 2020, a Guardian assessment was opened in that office to analyze the information about the Bidens provided by them to Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani. During the course of that assessment, DOJ and FBI officials located the FD 1023 from March 1st, 2017, related to the kleptocratic investigation of Zelensky. That document included a reference to Hunter Biden being on the board of Burisma, which the handling agent deemed at the time non-relevant information to the ongoing criminal financial case. When the FD 1023 was discovered, Justice Department FBI officials asked the handler for the confidential human source to re-interview that CHS, Grassley said. Eventually, the re-interview took place, Grassley said, and the aforementioned FD 1023 alleging a criminal scheme between Vice President Biden and Hunter Biden and Zelensky was created in June of 2020, What happened in 2020? What? There was a major event that happened in 2020. What was it? I can't think of it. I wonder if this information, if it had come out, would have impacted that event, whatever that event was. I can't think of that event. Anybody remember what happened in 2020 that was really important? Something happened. Well, federal prosecutors in Pittsburgh were limited in their investigative abilities. Grassley said because it merely an assessment. Prosecutors were not able to issue subpoenas or search warrants, but instead only able to conduct database checks. My office has been informed that the FBI agents, DOJ officials working in the Pittsburgh assessment had to pause their work for weeks at a time because the assessment had to be reapproved every 30 days by the DOJ and FBI officials. On and on and on until they dropped it. Because there's nothing here. There's nothing here. Nothing to see, folks. Just move along. Move along. Nothing to see. No big deal. No big deal. And then I was going to talk about this real quick. The case in New York City against Donald J. Trump about the appraisal of his property. His former attorney, his fixer, as the media likes to call him, Mr. Cohen, was testifying yesterday. He was testifying yesterday, and it didn't turn out so well. And I had it, and I don't know if I don't have it anymore. Oh, I had it. I don't have it. I don't have it up. So let's just tell you about it. So they were under cross-examination. They asked Mr. Cohen if Donald Trump had ordered him to change the assessments. And he said, no. And they asked Mr. Cohen if the assessment was unfair. And he said it was normal business practice, which also went against Mr. Cohen's previous testimony, which means he's either lying then or lying now. But either way, he lied under oath. At which point, the Trump team asked the judge to dismiss the case because the lead prosecution witness just said that Trump was innocent and that he lied under oath. The witness lied under oath, to which the judge did not dismiss. At that point, Donald Trump got up with his entire Secret Service and stormed out of the room mad. Went straight to the media cameras and said, it's a witch hunt, which he'll probably be fined for again. So far, he's been fined $15,000 for not shutting up as ordered to by the judge. So that's what's going on in that case. You know, two-tiered system of justice, a two-tiered system designed specifically to, well, you know, designed specifically to protect people like Joe Biden, but destroy people like Donald Trump. And that's what they intend on doing, is they intend on destroying Donald Trump. Here's another funny one. Trump takes a witness stand in the New York fraud trial, and he was fined $10,000 for the gag order. This is actually pretty good because he gets up there and he was asked by the judge. He was asked by the judge, did you say this? And Trump's like, yeah, I said it. What are you going to do about it? That's basically the attitude. Here's the story about Michael Cohen and what happened here. It said Cohen was back in the witness stand. He testified in a tense cross-examination that Trump did not direct him to inflate his net worth, a direct contradiction of his previous testimony. Mr. Trump never directed you to inflate the numbers of his personal statement? Yes or no? Trump attorney Clifford Robert asked Cohen, referring to the similar statement Cohen made to Congress in 2019. Yes, Cohen said. Trump threw up his hands in the air, looked around the room, as did another of his attorneys, Ms. Haba. So straight up lied, and it's going to get tossed. It's this thing. He's probably going to get convicted in this court because the judge is is retarded. This is what Donald Trump had to say. Sleazebag attorney Michael Cohen, New York State's primary witness, admitted today that President Trump never told him to increase his asset values. He also got caught lying on numerous occasions. He was totally discredited like a Perry Mason moment. The AG witch hunt should be dropped immediately. Fox News coverage is so inaccurate. Sad. So Donald Trump is blasting back at what's going on in the Congress or in the jury, in the whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about. You know the thing. In the courtroom with this unprecedented witch hunt. All the while, all the stuff that this current president, Joe Biden, is doing is being swept under the carpet. I got one more story I want to leave with you. And that's this story here, as reported by the Western Journal. Unmistakable move of the Holy Spirit takes over a high school football field. Perhaps those of us who sometimes complain about kids these days should use a story that teaches humility and appreciating. According to the Christian Post, thousands of young people gathered on a high school football field in Hot Springs, Arkansas, for an evening of music and testimonies of Christian faith. Truly, there was an unmistakable move of the Holy Spirit, said Micah May of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. May, the director of FCA South Central Arkansas, added that God was present and lives were changed. All told, May reported more than 3,000 people, nearly all of them teenagers, attended the event on October 11th. The only thing more encouraging than the astonishing attendance figure is the fact that the Hot Springs event was part of a much larger movement called Fields of Faith, which has made a global impact. According to the website, Field of Faith organizes events where students challenge their peers to read the Bible and follow Jesus Christ. Moreover, the website listed more than 250 similar gatherings scheduled on October 11th alone, including I can say the word when I'm not looking at it. Buenos Aires, I actually close my eyes, Argentina, and St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. Here is some pictures of the event. I can't click through them because it's just a screenshot. It says, God is on the move, and we are honored to be a part of what he is doing here. May told the Christian Post. To God be the glory. So here is just a few seconds of what went down there. Hold up.
Come on, yeah. Hey. Except for a heart.
So what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, the fields are ripe for harvest. And God is going to use this generation, this lost and confused and despaired upon by Generation X, which is my generation. These high school kids and college kids who are searching desperately for something. He's going to use these kids as his harvesters. And the outpouring is coming to them first. And you will see a revival in your churches, if your churches choose to accept it, of the children. An outpouring that's going to be unbelievable. And these kids are going to change this world. They're going to turn it upside down. 1 billion souls are going to come to Christ because these kids. So when you think about all the crazy stuff about Gen Z and all the knucklehead stuff that they do, remember you were a knucklehead 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old kid this morning at one time. Not this morning, but at one time somebody posted something that said the price of gold this morning, and I was reading it as I was talking. But God's getting a hold of these kids. And they're not all, some of them are fake. Yeah, maybe so, but that doesn't matter because the ones that are real are going to burn this world to the ground for God spiritually. So get ready. because it's happening. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. And I'm excited about it. I don't know about you. I can't wait. I can't wait. And understand that in this, there's going to be a lot of pain, a lot of upheaval. The enemy is still at work. We still got to go through what we got to go through. We've still got to go through the Red Sea to get to the other side. And it's going to be cold and wet and muddy and scary. And the wind's going to be blowing and it's going to be hard. And it's going to be uphill both ways. And this next year is going to be one heck of a year. Because our enemy will burn this world to the ground before it lets come out what has to come out. So be ready for it. This ain't no joke. No joke. It's not hyperbole. You know the thing. It's going to get ugly before it gets better. It has to get ugly because we have to destroy the strongholds of the enemy in our culture, in our finance, in our government, in our entertainment, in our sports, in our churches. It has to be destroyed. So it's going to be ugly. It's going to be good. Have faith. Trust God. Be prepared. You guys have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.